Hey, welcome back to the Third Saturday in October podcast, your SEC tailgating podcast for the rest of us. I'm Bradley, Tennessee Bradley, that is. Across from me is my co-caster, Alabama Chris. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good, buddy. We've got a lot to look forward to. Got some promise to the end of the season as an Alabama fan. I'm pumped up. Ended the season strong with an SEC championship, so that feels good. But now it just makes me even more nervous for what's on the line in the weeks to come. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. We're going to talk about Tennessee. We're going to talk about Bama. We're going to talk about the other SEC teams as well, all the bowl games that we now know that are happening, what happened last week, and actually talk about some good food as well, some tailgating options. So we got a lot to talk about this hour.
I know we talk a lot about Auburn and Florida, just news coming out of those camps. Chris, you're in your Christmas pajamas. I think all Alabama fans are kind of sitting there. They've got a gift in their lap waiting to open it, but it says, do not open into a college football playoff semifinals. We'll see what happens against Notre Dame in a little over a week. Meanwhile, under your Tennessee Christmas trees, there aren't many gifts. As you can see by my Zoom background, it's awfully bare. And the presents that we are getting are coming in the form of lumps of coal. It may not be necessarily bad news, but uncertain news with things like allegations and recruiting violations. So we get into that and a whole lot more on this week's episode of the Third Saturday in October. So Chris, I mean, for Christmas, we're all getting SEC headlines. That there's so many of them. There's plenty to go around. So
having an episode like this, that's around Christmas time, it feels nice. I've got my Christmas jammies on today in honor of it. I want to start singing "It's the most wonderful time of the year" with Christmas going on. The holidays are in full swing. We've got bowl games now, but I'm looking behind you, buddy, at an
empty Christmas tree. Yeah, there's nothing under a Tennessee Christmas tree this year. No bowl game. We had one for a couple hours, but don't anymore. I guess let's start there.
Yeah.
What happened to Tennessee's bowl game? They were supposed to play West Virginia in the Liberty Bowl. First, people are saying, why is Tennessee at 3-7 playing in a bowl game? Well, let's look at it this way. They drew Texas A&M and Auburn as opponents that weren't originally on their schedule. Okay, take those away. Now we're 3-5. You schedule a couple other games. You got 2 warm-up games. Those are most likely wins unless you're playing Georgia State and BYU last year. Then you've got probably another tune-up game in there somewhere and homecoming.
Yeah.
So you're looking at probably a 6-6 Tennessee team. I think maybe Wes Rucker is the one who kind of pointed that out, wrote that up. I agree with that. So they get invited to a bowl. Well, then Coach Pruitt and a whole host of players test positive. May not have been players, maybe been coaches. Who knows? Some team members tested positive for COVID. And I think just with the shortened period between last games and bowls, they just rescheduled and it went to Army. I'm fine with that. Army, I think, was 9-1 and didn't get a bowl bid. I'm happy they get a bowl bid. Tennessee, did they deserve? I don't know that they deserved a bowl. Always glad to get one.
Sure.
But hey, let everybody heal up. We'll be okay.
And they're a little bit of precedent with some other teams with similar schedules. I think the Razorbacks, if not the exact same win-loss record as Tennessee this year, at least close, and they're going to a bowl. So there's I think Mississippi State as well. They're going to a bowl with a similar record. So again, 2020, everybody being bowl eligible this year, except for maybe a somebody like an LSU that we talked about that have pulled themselves out of the running. So certainly an interesting season. It's been like one hit after another with Tennessee, it seems, especially this week.
Yeah. So there's also talk of this investigation. Improper benefits is what's being thrown around, which it could be. I'm holding up a crisp $1 bill. It could be as little as giving $1 to a player who can't get it that way. It could be buying somebody lunch. It could be writing a $50,000 check to a family.
Yeah.
No one really knows at this point. Former Tennessee player and coach has a radio show on Sunday mornings here in Nashville. And he was saying, look, this could be nothing. It could be big, but most of the time it's very small. This happens all the time. This is why you have these departments on the athletic staff. They go in and they're just trying to comb through everything. Did anybody talk to anybody they weren't supposed to? That sort of thing. Then also, I don't know why this is breaking news, but with Florida, they've got some investigation stuff going on, but
I'm still confused about all that.
Yeah. So we were talking about this before we went live.
Yeah.
It looks like it's just old news, because some of the ramifications were that Dan Mullen couldn't go off campus to recruit for the fall 2020 evaluation period. I don't know how long that is. I mean, they're playing football games, so it's not like you get a lot of time to leave campus. But I thought what was more interesting is let me see some of this stuff. So this is a 1-year show cause for Mullen, which means I think basically for 1 year, here are the penalties you have to pay. No off-campus recruiting during the fall 2020 period. He's banned for 4 days of off-campus recruiting in the fall 2021, so a year from now. But there's a lot of stuff going on. Mullen was also banned from off-campus recruiting in January 2020 for a few days. And then before that, in fall of 2019, he was banned from off-campus recruiting for 30 days. So now, I mean, that's starting to add up. 1 year probation. Wow. What the heck does that mean? I mean, he can't go anywhere for recruiting. So I don't know how he can, I guess that's his probation. The university was prohibited, and I guess still is, from recruiting players from a particular Seattle area high school from 2019 all through 2021. A 7-day off-campus recruiting ban for the entire staff this upcoming spring. I mean, that's a lot of time that you can't be on the road recruiting, not just Mullen, but his entire staff. So I think more the news is this trending in the right direction? But it's December with less time between the end of the regular season and the bowl season. This stuff kind of, it feels a little weird how it's coming up so quickly. But some of it I think is just normal, par for the course. Hey, year's over. We're reviewing stuff and investigating it ourselves before turning it over to NCAA, who will then make their own investigations, I'm sure. But just a lot of that going on right now. Not sure what to make sense of it right now. Just kind of have to let it play out. But even with Florida, I'm like, you know what? I don't know that it's really going to change anything. Yeah. It doesn't look anything fireable for Mullen, unfortunately, as a Tennessee fan. I'm not sure that anything's fireable for Jeremy Pruitt, even though the mob is getting their torches and pitchforks ready.
Yeah.
I think just cool your jets there, Tennessee fans.
Tennessee fans as well, and I fall into this category also. I went on a little bit of a rant last week talking about how Dan Mullen's not my favorite person. I do think he's a good coach, but just some of the things that he does are they just rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so when I hear about things about the Vols, who, again, my allegiance is with Alabama, but I like the Vols as well. And so when I hear about that, I'm like, don't worry about it. Stop complaining about Jeremy Pruitt so much. And then when I hear it about Florida Gators, I'm like, yeah, that's Dan Mullen for you, being a weirdo or being a jerk or being going against the rules. But I don't know. I'm the kind of fan that I love watching the games and getting into it and rooting for players and teams and stuff. But as far as recruiting violations, and if that means 3 days versus a week off of recruiting, I don't really know how to decipher all of those rules and judgments and
True.
allegations and stuff in my head. So I just kind of have to hold up. Like, I'm assuming all of this will come out and it will be all figured out eventually. But it is funny how I was ready to call down the mob for calling for Jeremy Pruitt's head. I'm like, guys, give it a rest. Come on, just take a breather. Let's give it a break. But as soon as something about Dan Mullen popped up, I'm like, I told you, kind of thing. So
well, and
it's funny how I fall into that same trap.
Who knows if Tennessee had some sort of miracle, Jeremy Pruitt had a great season, beat Alabama, maybe things would be different from your perspective. The fact that Florida won the East, won a lot of games, maybe that's why this is big news for Florida, even though it's old news. Who knows? Part of me is like, okay, these little infractions with Tennessee, we got bigger things to worry about. One thing is we got some coaches who appear to be leaving. I don't know that anything's set in stone, at least at the time of this recording. Our offensive line coach is apparently leaving for South Carolina. I'm not too mad about this. Our offensive line, a lot of great talent, 4 and 5 stars across the line, and underachieved this year for the most part. Then the last 3 games of the season, we had primarily 2 quarterbacks play. JT Shrout, a redshirt sophomore, and a true freshman in Harrison Bailey. Harrison Bailey got starts in all 3 games, which I was a little surprised by. Why didn't Shrout get a chance to start? Also, just the swapping of quarterbacks didn't quite make sense to me either. But now it turns out that Shrout has decided to enter the transfer portal. Does that mean he'll actually transfer? Not necessarily, but he's testing the waters. He's going to see what's out there. Somebody tweeted out, how did they not see this coming? Everybody else saw it. I didn't see it coming. I wish we could have seen more of him. But I don't know. An article that I read was saying, look, this is another failed quarterback at Tennessee. In my opinion, I think I said this last week, let Chris Winkie go. Let Jim Chaney coach quarterbacks and see what happens. Shake it up a little bit, because quarterback seems to be a problem area.
Get lean and mean with it. Yeah.
I guess other news related to that investigation, a couple players, Brian Maher, a quarterback at Tennessee, held out along with Eric Gray, our dynamic running back. We believe as a part of this investigation of improper benefits, maybe they were getting something they weren't supposed to, like a crisp $1 bill. But yeah, all that means, what does Tennessee get for Christmas? Not a coal in their stockings, basically. There's not a lot under this Tennessee Christmas tree.
Yeah, and it's a bummer too. Again, it's from where we were this time last week, talking about, we didn't think that Tennessee was going to pull it out against Texas A&M, but we can see what Tennessee's made of one last time, and we'll see where we come on the other side, if a bowl game, or we'll try again in the spring kind of thing. And now from the allegations to the COVID issues around not going to a bowl, it's been a tough week. So yeah, it's a shame that Christmas tree is so bare, but I definitely understand some frustrations, but also why it is what it is. Another team, South Carolina, now not playing in their bowl game due to COVID issues also.
Yeah.
So that takes out two of our SEC teams that would have had bowl games. And I think who would it have been? Vandy, I don't think got an invite. Was that the only team that we're missing out on? Oh, and LSU took themselves out of the running this year, which they've had a lot of issues this week. Bo Pelini doesn't look like he's coming back as defensive coordinator. Their offensive coordinator and I think their wide receivers coach are both retiring from on-field coaching, and I think they're going to go to an analyst's position on the staff. So a lot of shakeup in LSU happening during this offseason as well. So there's some wild and woolly stories out there that we're going to be paying attention to in the late winter, early spring. And hopefully we'll all get it shaped up for a fun SEC season next year. But again, 2020 being the year that anything could happen and everything probably will, it looks like that it has. Well, now we even have teams not playing in bowl games.
Yeah, speaking of wild and unruly off seasons, how about the head coaching search at Auburn? I got to say, as a Tennessee fan, this felt like the Tennessee head coaching search from a couple years ago, only happening in a shorter time frame. But according to Sports Illustrated, on pull up one of their articles online, and I found what I believe are 6 prospects, 6 rumored coaches to have been interviewed, or Auburn reached out to them about the head coaching position, and then finally their 7th option took it. But let's just run these names real quick. Louisiana coach Bill Napier, Alabama offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, Auburn interim head coach Kevin Steele, also former defensive coordinator. I guess he's former. I don't know if he's being retained. UAB coach Bill Clark, Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables, and we'll see where he lands next year, Liberty head coach Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
They end up, what it seems that they've all but signed the contract for Boise State's Brian Harsin. I think Harsin is how you say his last name.
Yeah, I believe so.
For me, just an interesting hire. Not sure what his resume looks like. But that's a lot of coaches to turn it down, because Sarkisian said, I'm staying at Alabama. Venables, I think, is staying at Clemson. Not sure what happened with Kevin Steele. Not sure why Napier wasn't in there. UAB coach Bill Clark was interesting. Some people said, okay, we don't believe that was a real consideration, because who would turn down Auburn to stay at UAB? But Chris, I think you've heard some things from your Alabama family. What's the rumor mill saying happened with Bill Clark?
Yeah, again, none of this is confirmed, but having a family in Alabama, both being pretty avid, my brother and my father, both pretty avid radio listeners when it comes to college sports in the Alabama area. We're big Alabama fans, but we actually, in our hometown that's closer to Auburn, got a lot of Auburn people in our periphery. But Bill Clark used to be the head coach of our high school team of Prattville High School. And he was our coach when we had a lot of success in like the 2000s era. We were ranked nationally several times, and Bill Clark, I think, took that position and then went on to UAB from there. But the rumor is that he was interested in the position, but whoever it is, the staff, the defensive, or the athletic coordinator there at Auburn didn't want to give him the amount of oversight that he wanted. And I don't know if that was what that exactly was, but it looks like, and maybe that's the issue with several of these coaches, that they may have been interested for a little bit, but when they realized what they were getting for it, as far as the amount of influence, the amount of decision making that they would have, it didn't look like the best fit. And so again, like you're saying, you're reading off 5-7 names there that ended up saying no before Brian Harsin did say yes. And it looks like from what he did at Boise State was a pretty good job. He actually followed Gus Malzahn when Gus Malzahn left Arkansas State to come to Auburn. He followed in that position for a year, becoming the head coach there at Arkansas State, and I believe did a good job there. He's got a good record when it comes to being everything from assistant coaches to a full-time head coach at Boise State. So he's got a decent record. He's got a decent record in bowls, and I think that he came out as the best option for everybody involved.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned Arkansas State. Your friend and mine, Butch Jones, the new head coach at Arkansas State.
There we go.
So
it's a whole round robin with this SEC stuff. There's a lot of turnover. Yeah, Butch now getting his due. And I read, there were some grading of the current people that have now been hired as new head coaches. I believe Brian Harsin got a B- being pulled to Auburn. Butch Jones got, I think, an A or an A+ for going to Arkansas State. So I don't know if that's a fit thing or what they know his upside is or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
They are champions of life over there at Arkansas State now. But yeah, so really, if you like drama, this is an off season for it. A lot of stuff happening with Butch Jones. I do find it interesting that I believe his payments from Tennessee are about to run out anyways. About that time is when he finally decides to get a big boy job instead of just, whatever an analyst does at Alabama. The joke was he's just been making Nick Saban's coffee and cleaning his shoes for the last couple of years. But who knows? So Auburn's got a head coach. Tennessee's got allegations. Florida's got allegations. No bowls for Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, or Vandy. But we do have 10 SEC teams going to bowls, and half of them are favored. So let's just go through these real quick. Iowa and Missouri in the Music City Bowl. Florida and Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. Mm-hmm. Tulsa and Mississippi State in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Arkansas TCU in the Texas Bowl. Georgia Cincinnati. I was hoping we'd get this matchup in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which also, if there were fans, it would be basically a home game for Georgia. Auburn Northwestern in the Citrus Bowl. Northwestern playing in the Big Ten Championship, not doing so well against Ohio State, but still got there. Notre Dame versus Alabama in the Rose Bowl game presented by Capital One College Football Playoff semifinal.
Yeah.
That name's just so ridiculous. I had to read the whole thing. Then also NC State, Kentucky in the Gator Bowl, Ole Miss, Indiana Outback Bowl, and Texas A&M, North Carolina in the Orange Bowl. That's a lot of football. Some interesting matchups as well. Chris, outside of Alabama, Notre Dame, is there one particular one that stands out to you?
Oh, yeah. Actually, there are a couple. And I just wanted to say this as well. It's funny reading some of these names and seeing the politics or the decision-making that goes on, whether you are a Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl or the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, when used to they were kind of just known as the Peach Bowl or the Orange Bowl or whatever. But now it's the Capital One Orange Bowl. the Capital One comes first. But in the Rose Bowl, because of its, the granddaddy of them all kind of thing, it's the Rose Bowl game presented by Capital One. So are you first? Are you second? Where do you fall in line there? But I thought that was
didn't
interesting.
That one get moved to Texas?
Yep. Usually plays every year in Pasadena. The only time in the last, I think, 100+ years or 90 years that it's been in existence, the only time it's been played outside of the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, I think, was in 1942, just weeks after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. They were still under fear that the west coast of the United States could be at risk. And so they moved the game, I believe, to North Carolina for that 1 year. But every other year, except for this one, has been that. And just an interesting side note that I heard too during the selection period a couple of days ago, that this is one of the few times that an SEC team is not going to be in the Sugar Bowl. And so the first round of the college football playoffs, where the Sugar Bowl traditionally played by an SEC team, if it's not a college football playoff decision, and played in New Orleans area, or the Rose Bowl, which usually is in California, now at Jerry World in Arlington, Texas. And the reasoning that they chose to put Alabama being the number one, so they have preference when it comes to those top four teams, because they are ranked number one. They have preference, and I heard that because of Texas's rules, they are allowing like 14,000 fans inside the stadium to watch the game, whereas the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans is only allowing somewhere around 4,000 or something. So they gave the number one seed preferential treatment because of how many fans could come. So we'll be hearing about 2 weeks after that January 1st matchup of all the Alabama and Notre Dame fans that now have COVID. I hope not, but because they're going to have way more people allowed in the stadium, that's why Alabama got that bid.
Once again, Alabama's getting preferential treatment, and I guess now it needs to be called the Rose Bowl game presented by Capital One College Football Playoff Semifinal, being played in whatever Jerry World's name is in Dallas, Texas. Yeah. I think they win the trophy for longest bowl game name in the history of all of college football bowl games. I mean, it's got to have a long name on that trophy.
Yeah. I want to see that on one trophy or on one t-shirt.
I know it's going to be bigger than the Stanley Cup, because the Stanley Cup, I think, has all the names of all the teams that have won it, and it just keeps growing. It's going to be bigger than that trophy just from trying to put all these names on it. But
100%. Yeah. AT&T Stadium is
that's it. Yeah.
The official name of Jerry World.
For me, I think Georgia Cincinnati is the one to watch, because Cincinnati has been saying, why aren't we in the playoffs? And it's like, okay, take on the fourth best team in the SEC and see how you do. Because I think it is Alabama, A&M, Florida, Georgia as the top four in the SEC. I don't know. We'll see here before too long how Cincinnati stacks up.
It's kind of odd to say that Georgia is the fourth best team in the SEC, and when you look at the records and the standings, it plays itself out. But they're only ninth nationally, and so to be the fourth best team in the SEC, but you're still in the top 10 of college football playoff rankings, that's pretty interesting, and I think a good thing for the SEC as far as the SEC's reputation goes. But I'm very excited. It's kind of like
the recruiting rankings, where Tennessee is, I think, 7th in the SEC, but 14th in the nation.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, one of the reasons that I'm most interested in that game is kind of the same thing that you said, that Cincinnati argues that they should be in the college football Final Four playoff situation, but let's see how you do against number 9 Georgia. And right now, Georgia's favored to win by 7 at this point, which is one of the larger spreads in all of the bowl games where the SEC is favored. I'm also interested to see this Auburn Northwestern game. Yeah. Just from an state of Alabama perspective, would like to see what's going to happen with Auburn. I don't know how much momentum they have with, having a new head coach, but apparently he won't be on the sidelines at this point. He's going to, I guess Kevin Steele will still be there on the sideline as interim head coach. So that's interesting, just the way that will play out from a coaching perspective. And then what do we have to fight for kind of thing as well. But I will say I'm sad that I'm not going to see both Tennessee and South Carolina be able to play in their games that they should have been in. But I am, like you said as well, happy for Army that they get a chance. And it seems like such a bizarre thing that they didn't get an invitation with such a good season.
Right. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm fine with it. Tennessee did not live up to expectations, even in a crazy season. Look, I predicted them to go 8-2. They almost reversed that. And I think a lot of it can be chalked up to quarterback play. It influences not just the offense, but the defense as well.
Yeah, and just quickly, I don't know much information about this other than I just heard that Garantano entered the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Also, which again, bizarre how he played most of the season and then was benched toward the end of the season. I wonder what his stock is going to look like as far as a transfer prospect.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish him best of luck. He had death threats coming in, and look, I don't care how bad you are.
Yep.
If the coach says you're playing, well, I mean, you can't really take yourself out. I mean, I guess you could fake injury, but I don't know. If you're going to be mad at somebody for Garantano's performance and still playing, get mad at the coaching staff. And I think fans are. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I wish him best of luck. I hope he goes and finds a quarterback coach that really understands him and gets the most out of him and has success. So, not really surprising either, because I think he is a redshirt senior, but he gets another year of eligibility thanks to this pandemic. So good for him for taking that opportunity, furthering your education, and playing some more football. Because at this point, I don't know that he's going to go to the NFL or even make a practice squad. So milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, true. And in a year like this, where you are, where the penalties of transferring and sitting out and stuff like that are lower than they usually are, keep taking that chance, man. Keep going for it. See what you can do with it. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, make as much lemonade out of lemons as you can make, or, turn it all around and start a lemonade stand at the new place.
Yeah. Kind of as we're looking back at Garantano's career, let's look back in just recent future, last week's games. Texas A&M ran all over Tennessee. Here's really the takeaway that I have. And I think this tells us the quality of the character quality of the players we have at Tennessee, and also the coach's ability to get them fired up. They did not quit. They played full 60 minutes and played hard. So from that loss that wasn't all that pretty, I did take that away. They were playing hard for full 60 minutes. Ole Miss LSU, I was really surprised. I don't know what has happened. I thought Ole Miss was just going to boat race them. I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts on Ole Miss LSU?
Kind of that same thing, that LSU kind of came out of nowhere for the last two games of their season, with beating Florida and then beating Ole Miss. Again, going into the Florida game, they were just dogs, and
they were
fighting as hard. Fighting as hard as they did. They looked like they had a little life, and I don't know necessarily what they had to play for other than pride at that point in the season. But but really had a good showing against Florida. Showed up, scored a ton of points, both Ole Miss and LSU. But yeah, just looking at that, the amount of points, almost as many that were scored or right there at the same amount of points that were scored in the Alabama-Florida game, which again, it was nuts as well. But, Ole Miss was favored only by 2.5 points. So they thought that it would have been closer. I think that if LSU had not beaten Florida the week before, that spread would have probably been 10, 13 points, something like that. So very interesting game and see where LSU ended up. But now they've got to go through all these not going to a bowl and these coaching changes that will happen. So this will be an interesting offseason for the Bayou Bengals. Interested to see what happens there. It looks like that, Missouri and Mississippi State. Missouri was
happened?
Yeah, they were picked to win that game only by 1 point, but still a 32-51 loss by Missouri. That's a big point spread.
Man, yeah, Mississippi State knows how to start well and end well. It's just those 8 games in the middle that
those
really
pesky 8 games. Yeah,
man, that blew my mind. That I guess Mississippi State won by 19.
Yeah,
I thought Missouri was going to win by 24. I don't know. Drinkwitz had the Missouri Tigers really drinking the Kool-Aid over there, pulling them together and then just fall apart. I don't know what happened there, but I do want to get to Alabama, Florida, because is Kyle Trask that good, or did Alabama's defense just have that many lapses? I'm not sure, but Chris, you joined us on our virtual tailgate for a few minutes.
Oh, it was brief, man. I was so stressed out.
Yeah, you were nervous. I actually felt confident that Alabama could keep their foot on the gas, but I didn't have a whole lot invested in that game. So talk to us about your feelings of that SEC championship.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was a nail biter, and it was stressful, and it felt like how I usually watch Alabama games throughout the season. Oftentimes, especially the last decade or so, exactly, hands over the eyes.
Yeah.
But we usually have so much to play for that every game is life or death, because it's the difference in making it to the college football playoffs or to make it to the national championship. And so it means so much that both my dad and my brother and myself, we all just sit around like, ugh, we look so bad. And, even when we're winning kind of thing. But this year we haven't had a lot of hold your breath, what's going to happen in this game. Ole Miss was one where they really took it to Alabama and had a chance to pull it out. But Alabama ended up pulling away at the end there. But Florida just did not let up. Alabama, we were doing a good job on offense of doing what we were supposed to do, score and then get the defense back on there. But then Florida would come back. And again, there was no point that it looked like that Florida was going to dominate. They just looked like two good teams going head to head, but it seemed like it would be one fumble recovery that could have really turned that game, or one pooch kick there,
or one interception, and then a receiver goes and plays linebacker and just separates the ball carrier from the ball.
That was an insane hit, and I kind of thought that Mechie, who made that hit after the interception, I was crossing my fingers that he wasn't called for targeting. It was just a brutal hit. But when I see a hit like that, I automatically start thinking like, here we go.
And I can't remember
players out for the rest of the game.
I can't remember if it was just on Twitter or if somebody actually asked Coach Saban, hey, you ever thought about playing Mechie at linebacker? I mean, granted, it was also a blindside tackle. That DB had no idea what was coming his way. But that was highlight reel stuff right there. Yeah. Not quitting on the play and hustling.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a nail biter from start to finish. My favorite thing that I heard Coach Saban say after the game, which is what I'm going to take into the college football playoff game on January 1st, is maybe it's a good thing that we had a good close game to prepare us for what's coming up, because the competition is not going to get any easier than what we saw against playing Florida in the SEC championship game. I feel like that Alabama will have a further distance in scores, will beat Notre Dame, and it will be a little bit more handedly decided when you look at the scoreboard than it did even the Florida Gators. But it made me nervous, but good that we had some good competition to really look at down the line for the next two games of hopefully playing in round one of the playoffs and then hopefully going on to the national championship. I hated that our center was knocked out for the rest of the season with an injury. From everything that I've heard and things that I've seen, he is an SEC first team. He's an All-American first team on a couple of different things that I've seen. So just a huge loss there, and could create some potential issues when it comes to the offensive line.
Exactly, because that center is the one who's calling out adjustments to any blocking schemes for the rest of the offensive line. However, it's Alabama, and I mean when Jalen Hurts got hurt, or I guess didn't get hurt but got pulled, Tua came in. Then Tua gets hurt, and Mac Jones did pretty well. And now, you get somebody hurt. What happens? I mean, who was your receiver that went down earlier and just kind of made way for Devontae Smith to have more of the spotlight? Alabama just has people stepping up right and left. So I don't know. It is a vital position, an underrated position, playing center. So hope he heals up quickly, and excited to see who plays. I mean, there was somebody who played for him in the championship game there at the end, but excited to see how that changes things for the playoffs.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches at this point. Sometimes it's difficult to even talk about it here on the show, because as much as I am excited and I cheer, I also know that it's in college football, all of this is fleeting. And one day Saban won't be the coach anymore, and one day we won't be enjoying these wins and these championships. And so I'm really trying to soak it in, but also understand, like keep it at arm's length a little bit. So it's a weird dynamic to both be really pumped up and then to be a little bit holding it at arm's length, because I don't know how long it's going to last. So I'm going to try to keep a smile on my face on January 1st, but we'll see how long it'll stay on there if the game gets close.
Yeah. And until Saban, as long as Saban is at Alabama, and like this year, it's just a coaching carousel to see if anybody can strike gold. Like LSU did. I mean, I think Alabama hired Saban because they saw the success at LSU. I don't know that it was much of a risk, other than, are we just going to basically write a blank check to Nick Saban to bring us some glory back to Alabama?
Right.
It's worked. I'll say that. Hey, let's talk about some food, though. I'm starting to get hungry. So our TSIO topple, my notes auto-corrected, topple the tailgate, top of the tailgate tournament of treats. Last week winners for drinks, it was beer.
Nice.
Any time of the day, beer.
Right.
Three-way tie currently for dips. Now we are recording this a little early because of the holidays. It's probably going to be closed by Christmas. But it's a three-way tie, at least really close, with cheese dip, buffalo chicken dip, and ranch.
I'm getting hungry just talking to you.
For your tailgate selection. Right. If you ask me, pour all three of those in one bowl, stir it up a little bit, and go to town. Just give me a spoon.
That is maybe the most brilliant thing you've ever said in your life. My mouth is watering so much right now. I gotta have that.
I've just achieved genius status. So this week's voting, better jump on it. We've got meats. For meats, we've got turkey, hot dogs, chicken wings, pigs in blankets.
Yes, indeed.
Then we got sides and pies. So we've got nacho cheese Doritos, mac and cheese, hash brown casserole for your early, Central Time Zone 11 a.m. kickoffs. I know those well. And pecan pie. I'm not going to say pecan because pecan's what sits next to the bed when it's cold outside. I'm going to have to walk all the way out.
Took me a while to get that, but now I understand.
Yeah, I heard that, on some radio show they were saying, is it pecan or pecan? And some old guy says, well, I know it's not pecan because that's something different. But go over to TSIO Pod on Twitter and vote for your meat and sides and pies favorite at your tailgate. Do that. It's running until basically New Year's Eve. So get over there and vote.
Yeah, and just a reminder for all of you that are listening to this, we've compiled a list. Every week we have a different category. We've been piling the list of choices based on the winners all season long. So we're now in the bracket style. So last week we had the drinks and dips round. And this week we have the meats and then the sides and pies round. And so we will choose a one winner at the end of the year around the national championship game. But also we're going to pick the ultimate plate as well, because this worked out in a really neat way of both dips, meats, and then sides and pies, and then drinks. You can make a nice little plate of like the ultimate tailgate combination of what you're going to put on there. So we will have one winner, but then we will have the sides and pies, the meats, the drinks, and the dips to make the ultimate plate for the end of the 2020 season as well. So keep voting. Can't wait to hear what you choose and see what's the ultimate winner at the end of the 2020 season.
Yes, sir. So now we've made our picks for tailgating. Let's make some picks for the college games. Now, for those of you playing along at home, I don't know what CBS has gotten into, but they've just kind of blanked the bed. So we're not sure what we're doing now, but we're just going to pick straight up winners. Bowl games, good luck trying to pick against the spread. But we're going to pick the ones that are going to happen before our next our next show next week. So let's start off with the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. Who is Trans Perfect?
It sounds like insurance company or something like that.
I'm scared to know what Trans Perfect is. But the Music City Bowl, we've got Iowa taking on Missouri.
It's a translation company. So it's maybe an app that you can use to translate things.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption.
Hey, you're all good. We've got Iowa 14.5 point favorite over Missouri. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Missouri wins this. Here's why. Missouri has played a 10 game, maybe 9 game. I don't know how many they play. 9 or 10 game SEC schedule. They're going up against an Iowa who's played a Big Ten schedule. I don't know how many games they played. 6, 7, maybe 8.
Yeah. It looks like that Iowa's played 8 games at this point, 6-2 on the season.
So they've gotten through a lot more. I just think Missouri comes out seeking a little bit of revenge of pride after that poor showing against Mississippi State. So I'm picking the SEC Tigers in this one.
Cool. I will go against you just to make it fun. For argument's sake, I'll pick Iowa, but man, it's really hard for me to pick in these bowl games to pick anything other than SEC teams. But I will pick Iowa. It looks like that they had a decent season. Didn't play the amount of games that Missouri did, but that could play in their favor as well, especially with the short turnaround between finding out you're going to play in a bowl and the actual bowl game is less than, a little over a week away. But yeah, I'll pick Iowa.
Yeah. Then in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, we got Florida, only a 2.5-point favorite over Oklahoma. I mean, this is basically a home game for Oklahoma. Florida, I don't know. We'll see how they come out after the SEC championship game, but I'm sticking with the SEC on this one and going with the Gators to beat the Sooners.
Man, this is a fun game. I should have mentioned this one earlier when we were talking about the bowl games that we were excited about. To see the Gators match up with a Sooners team who is like struggled in the beginning part of the season, but really began to improve. Again, I never like picking against SEC schools, but if you got to pick against an SEC school in my book, it needs to be the Gators. So I'm going to choose the Sooners. But I'm excited about seeing this game. This is going to be a fun one. Probably a lot of points scored. It looks like that right now the over-under is 72. So it looks like that there will be a lot of passing, a lot of Trask, a lot of what's his name, Spencer Rattler, the quarterback for the Sooners. I'm excited about this one. And well, there's several of them, but I'm excited about seeing.
Yeah, and then on New Year's Eve, we've got Tulsa and Mississippi State. Tulsa favored by 2.5 in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Look, this is a hard pick, and I'm going to go against the SEC and go with Tulsa. Just because last time Mississippi State had a big win, they kind of fell on their faces right after that. And I don't know. I don't trust Mississippi State quite yet. I don't know what it is, but there's just these 8 games in the middle that make me worried. So I'm going with Tulsa.
I agree. I'm going to go with Tulsa as well. I don't know about their competition this year, but just like you said, I can't trust Mississippi State on the games that we feel like they're going to get blown out. They end up finding a spark, and then in other games where they should be winning, they can't get anything started. So because of that inconsistency, I'm choosing the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes.
Then the last game we have that we'll be picking on New Year's Eve in the, what is this? Macari, Texas Bowl?
Yeah, Macari, Texas Bowl.
Arkansas versus TCU. TCU almost a touchdown favorite, favored by 6 points. I like what Coach Pittman's doing. I'm rolling with the Hogs in the Texas Bowl.
I like that too. I think it's fun to have TCU and Arkansas playing one another. If you just look at it on paper, it doesn't look like that Arkansas has much of a chance, but I think that Arkansas has done a lot this season to at least impress me. The record may not reflect it as much as the momentum maybe. So I'm hoping that they take that momentum, get a nice win to go into the off season and build and even come out stronger next year. So I'm going to pick the Razorbacks as well in a head-to-head matchup there.
So I think we got some really great bowl games.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to talk about some great bowl games because we got some college football playoff semifinals. We've got Georgia, Cincinnati. We've got a lot of good stuff happening next week as well. But now we have to talk about one of our favorite things, and that's pregame, because we got to know how we're watching all these bowl games. So, Chris, what time is it?
It's time to pregame.
Tailgate, man cave, living room, pregame. Burgers, ribs, chicken wings, chip and dip, pregame. Scotch and a lot of IPA, Coca-Cola, pregame. Slaying darts, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
I love it. We're hitting our stride right here at Christmas. So, Chris, basically, this is just an appetizer because your main course is Alabama next week. But how are you watching these bowl games leading up to New Year's Day?
Man, this year has been so bizarre, but it's allowed me to sit and watch some football, to spend time with my family, and I'm not going to change that up this Christmas season. We're not traveling like we usually do for the Christmas season. So we have, we'll be here, and these games are spread out. So I'm just going to enjoy time with my family in front of the big screen, watch some TV, have some snacks like I always do at Christmas time, but maybe like eating some leftover Christmas stuff and updating and having some new snacks during all the games. But that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just spend time with my family, as I can hear them off right there talking to me right now. So how about you? How are you pre-gaming this week?
Yeah. Last year, and I just got to say, your kids sound a lot like dogs. No offense.
Well, I can hear a daughter laughing with her friends, and then I can on the phone, and then I can hear my dog wanting to be a part of that conversation. So,
I bet. Well, last year at this time, remember, we were out doing things. We were going to the office. We were going to ball games, and the other people in my actual office, my little room there, were taking Christmas vacation. So I had the office to myself. So we got a TV in there that we use for presentations. I turned it on, and I had ball games going on, just flipping back and forth, having a big time. Well, I'm working at home now, but I've got a second screen over here that is dedicated this bowl season to watching football games. So I'll have that going on.
Sweet.
Tennessee's not playing in a bowl game, so I won't be just glued to my seat like I am other years, but really excited to have a lot of really interesting college football matchups to watch this offseason. So look, the Tennessee tree, there are no presents under it. We get some coal, and we get to watch other teams play in bowls. I'm going to have the merriest Christmas I have, but hey, it's weird all around. So
yeah, it's certainly weird.
Be sure to find us on social media at TSIOPod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on YouTube, where we broadcast the podcast. Go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. Find links to all of our social media. Plus, you can sign up for our Tailgating 101 cheat sheet. You can sign up for next year's Pick'em League. What else can you? Oh, we'll be doing virtual tailgates, not this week, taking a break, but hey, for the college football playoffs, we'll probably be back just so Chris can join us for a few minutes, and we'll see how much of that hair he's pulled out, or maybe it just stands on in like mine.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The whole world can tune in to watch me pull my hair out. That's perfectly said.
So no virtual tailgate this week, but do go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com, sign up so that when we do our tailgate for the college football playoff semifinals, you'll get it right in your inbox. Chris, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, buddy.
It has been a fantastic season. We're not quite done yet. We still got a couple more weeks, but I've enjoyed every minute of it, even during a 3-7 Tennessee season. So I just want to wish you in this season a roll Vols.
Roll Vols, baby.